There are moments in life when everything you thought defined you crumbles to dust, and you're left standing in the ruins wondering who you really are beneath all the expectations, the money, the name you inherited. For Madison Hartley, that moment came on a Tuesday afternoon in a cramped audition room in Lower Manhattan, when the casting director didn't even let her finish her monologue before saying thank you next. It was the 7th audition she'd failed in 3 months, and this time she didn't even make it past the first paragraph of her prepared piece. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slammed door ever could, and Madison stood in the hallway with her designer bag hanging from her shoulder, her carefully rehearsed confidence draining away like water through cupped hands. She was 24 years old, the only daughter of Gerald Hartley, the man whose name appeared on skyscrapers and whose face graced the covers of business magazines, the CEO who'd built an empire that stretched across 3 continents. People knew her father before they knew her, and that was the problem. When you grow up in that kind of shadow, people see the name before they see the person, and Madison had spent her entire life trying to prove she was more than just Gerald Hartley's daughter, more than just the girl who'd grown up in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, more than just another rich kid playing at having a dream. But acting was her dream, had been since she was 8 years old and saw her first Broadway show, since she felt that electricity in the theater when the lights dimmed and the curtain rose and suddenly you weren't in your seat anymore, you were somewhere else entirely, living someone else's truth. Her father had never understood it, never understood why she'd chosen something so unpredictable, so unreliable, so utterly divorced from the world of quarterly earnings and board meetings that had defined his existence. He'd paid for the best acting coaches money could buy, sent her to prestigious programs, opened doors that would have stayed closed for anyone else, and somehow that made it worse because Madison never knew if people said yes to her because she had talent or because they knew who signed the checks. And now, after years of training, after countless classes and workshops and showcases, she was failing. Not just failing quietly but failing spectacularly, failing repeatedly, failing in ways that made her wonder if she'd ever had any talent at all or if she'd just been deluding herself this whole time, propped up by instructors who were too polite or too well compensated to tell her the truth. The autumn air hit her face as she stepped out onto the street, and she started walking without any particular destination in mind, just moving because standing still felt impossible. The city rushed past her in that uniquely New York way, everyone with somewhere important to be, everyone moving with purpose while she drifted like debris in a current. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, probably her father's assistant confirming dinner tomorrow night, probably another attempt to convince her to give up this foolishness and come work for Hartley Industries in some invented position where she could play at having a career while everyone knew she was just the boss's daughter keeping a chair warm. She'd walked nearly 20 blocks when she heard it, the sound cutting through the urban noise like a knife through silk, a piano melody so achingly beautiful that it stopped her mid-stride. Madison turned, trying to locate the source, and found herself standing in front of a narrow storefront wedged between a bodega and a dry cleaner, a place she must have passed 100 times without ever really seeing it. The sign above the door read Riverside Music Academy in faded letters, and through the somewhat grimy window she could see an old upright piano and someone playing it, their hands moving across the keys with a fluidity that seemed almost impossible, like they were having a conversation with the instrument in a language Madison didn't speak but somehow understood in her bones. She pushed the door open, a bell chiming overhead, and stepped into a space that felt like it existed outside of time, all scuffed wooden floors and walls covered with photographs of students from decades past, instruments hanging from hooks, sheet music stacked on every available surface in a kind of organized chaos. The man at the piano didn't stop playing when she entered, didn't acknowledge her presence at all, just kept his fingers dancing across the keys while his head tilted slightly, like he was listening to something beyond the notes themselves. Madison moved closer, her footsteps soft on the worn floorboards, and it was only when she was a few feet away that she noticed the white cane propped against the piano bench, the dark glasses, the way his eyes didn't track her movement because they couldn't, because this man was blind and yet he was creating something so beautiful it made her chest ache. He must have been in his 50s, his hair silver gray, his face lined in ways that suggested a life that hadn't been easy, hands that were graceful on the keys but showed the wear of decades of practice. The song ended, the final note hanging in the air like a question, and the man spoke without turning toward her, his voice rough but not unkind. "You can come closer if you'd like, I don't bite and I already know you're there, been standing in my doorway for the better part of 3 minutes now, breathing like someone who's been running or maybe crying or maybe both." Madison felt her face flush, caught off guard by his directness. "I wasn't crying," she said, hearing the defensiveness in her own voice. "Just walking." He smiled then, a slight quirk of his lips that suggested he didn't believe her but wasn't going to push it. "Walking into a music school you've never visited before in the middle of the afternoon, looking like your world just ended. I may not have my sight, but I'm not blind to human nature, young lady. So what brings you to Vincent's humble establishment?" The casual arrogance should have been off-putting, but somehow it wasn't. "Vincent?" Madison asked, and he nodded. "Vincent Castellano, teacher of music, teller of uncomfortable truths, and occasional miracle worker, or so my students claim. And you are?" She hesitated, the old instinct to protect her identity warring with something else, some deeper exhaustion that made her tired of always calculating. "Madison," she said finally, leaving off the last name. "Just Madison." Vincent's expression shifted slightly, like he'd heard everything she hadn't said. "Just Madison," he repeated thoughtfully. "Well, just Madison, you didn't answer my question. What brings you here?" She could have lied, could have made up some story, but standing there in that shabby little studio with this blind man who seemed to see more than most sighted people ever would, the truth came out before she could stop it. "I'm an actress, or I'm trying to be one anyway. Failing to be one if we're being accurate. I just walked out of my 7th failed audition in 3 months, and I have no idea what I'm doing wrong, no idea why I can't seem to book anything, no idea if I have any talent at all or if I've just been fooling myself this whole time. I heard you playing and I just needed to not be walking anymore, needed to be somewhere that wasn't my apartment or another audition room or another place where people look at me and see everything except what I want them to see." The words tumbled out in a rush, more honest than she'd been with anyone in months, maybe years, and when they finally stopped, Madison felt both lighter and more vulnerable. Vincent sat quietly for a moment, his fingers resting lightly on the piano keys, and then he said something that changed everything. "Play something for me." Madison blinked, confused. "I'm not a pianist, I just told you I'm an actress or trying to be." Vincent shook his head slowly. "I didn't ask if you were a pianist, I asked you to play something. Come here, sit down next to me, put your fingers on the keys." She should have left then, should have recognized this as a waste of time, but something in his voice made her stay, made her cross the remaining distance and settle onto the piano bench beside him. Vincent shifted slightly, giving her room, and guided her hands to the keys with surprising gentleness. "Now," he said, "I want you to play me what you're feeling right now, this exact moment. Don't think about it, don't try to make it pretty or correct, just put your fingers on the keys and let whatever needs to come out, come out." Madison stared at the piano, at the black and white keys that might as well have been a foreign language. "I don't know how," she protested, but Vincent just smiled. "That's good, not knowing means you can't hide behind technique. Just hit the keys, just Madison. Show me your anger or your sadness or your frustration. Let the piano be your voice." So she did, feeling ridiculous and exposed and oddly free all at once, bringing her hands down on the keys without any plan or pattern, creating not music but noise, discordant and harsh, notes clashing against each other in ways that violated every rule of harmony she'd ever heard of. She hit the keys harder, putting all her frustration into it, all her disappointment, all those audition rooms and closed doors and polite rejections and years of trying to prove something to everyone including herself, and the sound that came from the piano was ugly and raw and completely honest in a way she'd never been honest before. When she finally stopped, her hands actually hurt, and she felt tears on her face without remembering when she'd started crying, and the silence in the little studio felt enormous. Vincent sat perfectly still beside her, and when he spoke, his voice was softer than before. "Now that was real. That was true. That was the first honest thing I've heard in this room in months." Madison wiped at her face with the back of her hand, embarrassed. "That wasn't music," she said. "That was just noise, terrible noise." "It was your noise," Vincent said. "And your noise matters more than the prettiest melody ever written because your noise was authentic, it was real, it came from somewhere true inside you. And that, just Madison, is the secret they never teach you in any acting class, any workshop, any expensive program your father probably paid for." Her breath caught at the mention of her father, and Vincent's smile widened slightly. "Oh yes, I know who you are," knew at the moment you hesitated over your last name. "Madison Hartley, daughter of Gerald Hartley, and you're here because you've failed 7 auditions and you can't figure out why, and I can tell you exactly why without even seeing you perform." The words should have made her angry, but instead she found herself leaning forward, desperate for an answer. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do I keep failing?" Vincent turned to face her more directly. "Because you're performing just Madison. You're giving them what you think they want, what you've been trained to give them, but you're not giving them the truth. You're not giving them this," he tapped the piano keys gently. "You're not giving them your authentic self, your real pain, your genuine joy, your actual anger. You're giving them technique, and technique without truth is just lying prettily, and audiences can smell a lie from the back row of the theater. What's missing is you, the real you, not the polished version, not the one who wants to prove she's more than her father's daughter, but the messy, complicated, hurting, hopeful person who just pounded my piano like it owed her money." Madison sat frozen on that piano bench, Vincent's words settling over her like snow, cold and clarifying. No one had ever talked to her like this before, with this kind of brutal honesty wrapped in something that felt almost like compassion. "I don't know how to do that," she said finally, and her voice cracked. "I don't know how to just be real up there. I've been trained to hit marks and project and make choices and all these technical things, and now you're telling me that's all wrong?" Vincent shook his head, his hands moving back to the piano keys. "I'm not saying technique is wrong, I'm saying technique without authenticity is empty, it's a beautiful shell with nothing living inside it. You know what the difference is between a good pianist and a great one? It's not the speed of their fingers or how many hours they've practiced. The difference is that a great pianist disappears into the music, they stop performing it and start living it, breathing it, becoming it. When I play, I'm not thinking about where my fingers go, I'm feeling the emotion I want to express and my fingers find the notes that carry that emotion." He began to play then, something slow and melancholic, a melody that felt like loneliness and longing mixed together. "I went blind when I was 17, Vincent said, still playing. "Degenerative disease, doctors said it was coming and there was nothing they could do to stop it. I watched the world fade away piece by piece until one day there was nothing but darkness and the sound of my own fear. I thought my life was over, thought I'd never play again, because how could a blind person possibly be a pianist?" The melody shifted, became something slightly more hopeful. "But then I realized something that saved my life. I realized that I'd been seeing with my eyes all those years when I should have been seeing with my heart, with my soul. Losing my sight forced me to find a deeper way of seeing, forced me to listen not just to the sounds but to the silence between them, to the truth underneath the technique. And you know what I discovered? I became a better pianist after I went blind than I'd ever been when I could see, because I stopped trying to play correctly and started trying to play truthfully." The music ended and Vincent turned back toward her, his face serious. "That's what you need to find, just Madison. You need to lose your sight, metaphorically speaking. You need to stop seeing yourself through everyone else's eyes, stop measuring yourself against your father's expectations or your coach's standards or those casting director's judgments, and start seeing yourself from the inside out. You need to find what makes you you, what pain and joy and struggle live in your bones, and then you need to be brave enough to show it, even if it's ugly or messy or not what people expect from Gerald Hartley's daughter." Madison felt something cracking open inside her chest, some careful seal she'd maintained for years beginning to fracture. "What if I do that and I still fail?" she asked, her voice small. "What if I'm authentic and real and honest and they still don't want me?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "Then at least you'll know you failed as yourself, not as some polished imitation of what you thought they wanted. At least you'll know you were brave enough to show them who you really are. But I'll tell you something else, something I've learned teaching music for more years than you've been alive. When someone is truly authentic, when they stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be honest, people feel it, they respond to it in ways they can't even articulate, because authenticity is magnetic in a world full of performers." She wanted to believe him. "I have another audition next week," Madison said slowly. "Lead role in an off-Broadway production, dramatic piece about a woman dealing with loss. I've been preparing for weeks, have the whole thing memorized, worked with my coach on every moment." Vincent tilted his head. "And how does it feel when you run through it, this perfectly planned performance?" Madison thought about it, really thought about it. "Empty," she said quietly. "Professional but empty, like I'm going through the motions of emotion without actually feeling anything real." Vincent nodded as if this confirmed something he'd already suspected. "Then forget it," he said simply. "Forget everything you've prepared, every choice you've made, every gesture you've rehearsed. Go into that audition room next week and instead of performing what you think they want to see, Find one moment, one single moment in that script that connects to something real in your life, something true in your experience, and live that moment honestly, not as a character but as yourself, as Madison Hartley, who's failed 7 auditions and is terrified she'll never be good enough. The suggestion terrified her more than any audition ever had. "That's insane," she said, but there was no conviction in her protest. "That's not how auditions work." Vincent corrected her gently but firmly. "They want to see if you can make them feel something. They want to see if you can transport them, move them, make them forget they're sitting in an audition room judging performers. And you can't do that with technique alone, you can only do that with truth. If there's a story in your life that changed everything, if there's a moment when someone saw you when no one else could, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if these kinds of stories move something in you the way they move me, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because we're building something special here, a community of people who believe in second chances and hidden wisdom and the possibility that our greatest teachers sometimes appear in the most unexpected places. Let's continue this journey together." Madison sat there beside this blind pianist in his shabby little studio, and felt something fundamental shifting inside her, some core assumption about who she was crumbling like a sand castle hit by a wave. She'd spent her entire life building walls, careful constructions of competence and polish that kept everyone at a safe distance. And now this stranger was telling her that those walls were exactly what was keeping her from what she wanted most. "I don't know if I can do that," she admitted, and there was a freedom in the admission. "You already did," Vincent said, gesturing toward the piano. "When you sat down here and made that terrible, beautiful noise, you were doing exactly what I'm asking you to do in your auditions. You stopped trying to be good and just let yourself be real, and that realness had more power in it than any perfect technique ever will. The question isn't whether you can do it, just Madison. The question is whether you're willing to risk doing it." She thought about it, really thought about it, and slowly, tentatively, she nodded. "Okay," Madison said. "Okay, I'll try. I don't know if I'll have the courage when I'm standing in front of those casting directors, but I'll try." Vincent smiled then, a real smile. "That's all any of us can do, try to be brave enough to be honest. Now, do you want to know the real secret, the one that will make this all work?" Madison leaned forward. "Yes, please tell me." Vincent's smile widened. "The secret is that you have to forgive yourself first, forgive yourself for all those failures, for not being good enough, for being Gerald Hartley's daughter, for every audition you walked out of feeling like you disappointed everyone. You have to forgive yourself for being human, for being imperfect, for struggling with something that everyone told you should come easily given your advantages. Because until you forgive yourself, until you make peace with your own perceived inadequacies, you can't be truly authentic, because you'll still be trying to hide the parts of yourself you think are shameful or insufficient." The words hit her like a physical force, and Madison felt tears spilling down her face again, but different tears this time, not tears of frustration but something deeper, something that felt almost like relief. "How do you know all this?" she asked through her tears. "How can you see so clearly when you can't actually see at all?" Vincent reached out, found her hand with surprising accuracy, and squeezed it gently. "Because I spent years in my own darkness, just Madison, literal and metaphorical both, and I had to learn these lessons the hard way. Losing my sight was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and also the best thing, because it forced me to stop hiding, stop performing, stop trying to be what everyone expected, and just be who I actually was." They sat in silence for a while, and Madison felt something she hadn't felt in longer than she could remember, something that felt like possibility, like the first glimmer of light after a long darkness. "Can I come back?" she asked finally, and Vincent nodded immediately. "Come back. Every day between now and your audition if you want. We'll work on finding your truth, on building your courage. No charge, no contracts, no expectations. Just you and me and this piano and whatever honest noise we can make together." The studio became Madison's sanctuary over the following days. She'd arrive each afternoon to find Vincent at the piano, and they'd spend hours not practicing acting at all but doing something else entirely, excavating the buried parts of herself she'd spent years covering over with polish and technique. Vincent never asked her to perform scenes or run lines. Instead, he'd ask her questions that seemed to have nothing to do with acting but everything to do with truth. "Tell me about the first time you disappointed your father. Tell me about the loneliest you've ever been. Tell me about what you dream about when you let yourself dream freely." And each time after she'd told him the story, he'd make her translate it into sound on the piano, make her express without words what the experience had felt like. Acting isn't about pretending to be someone else, Vincent explained on the fourth day. Acting is about finding the places where you and the character intersect, the shared humanity, the common ground of experience and emotion. You don't have to have lost a child to play someone who's grieving, but you do have to access your own grief, your own sense of loss, your own understanding of what it means to survive something that breaks you. The specific circumstances differ, but the emotional truth is universal. It made sense in a way nothing else ever had. But what if my experiences aren't dramatic enough? Madison asked. What if my life has been too comfortable, too privileged to understand real suffering? Vincent laughed at that. Oh, just Madison, you're suffering right now, can't you feel it? You're carrying around so much pain and shame and disappointment that it's leaking out of you with every word you speak. Privilege doesn't protect you from being human, doesn't shield you from hurt or loneliness or the desperate need to be seen and valued for who you actually are. Your pain isn't less real because you grew up in a penthouse. The tragedy of privilege is that it can isolate you just as thoroughly as poverty, can make you invisible in different ways. The day before her audition, Madison arrived at the studio to find Vincent standing by the window. Nervous? He asked without turning around, and Madison had to laugh because of course she was nervous, terrified actually. Completely terrified, she admitted. Vincent turned toward her, his expression serious. Good, terror means you're doing something real, something that matters. Comfort is the enemy of authenticity, just Madison. You should be scared because that's what real performance is, offering your truth to an audience. The question is, are you scared enough to be brave? I want you to do something for me today, Vincent said, moving back toward the piano. I want you to run your audition piece for me, but not the way you've been rehearsing it. I want you to do it wrong. Madison blinked. Wrong? What do you mean wrong? Vincent settled onto the bench. I mean, forget your blocking, forget your carefully planned emotional beats, forget everything your coaches taught you. Just read the words as if you're speaking them for the first time, as if they're your words expressing your feelings, and let whatever happens happen. Her hands were shaking as she pulled the script from her bag, pages worn from weeks of handling. Madison looked at these familiar pages and felt a wave of grief for all the hours she'd spent trying to perfect something that had been dead from the beginning. I don't know if I can just throw away all that preparation, she said quietly. Vincent's expression softened. You're not throwing it away, you're setting it free. All that preparation lives in your body now. You can trust that knowledge to support you even when you're not consciously controlling it. Madison took a deep breath and began to read. The scene was a moment where her character confronted her mother about years of emotional neglect, years of being invisible in her own family. She'd rehearsed this speech 100 times, had every inflection planned. But now, sitting beside Vincent with his instruction to do it wrong ringing in her ears, Madison let all of that go and just spoke the words as if they were her own, as if she were talking to her own father. You never actually looked at me, did you? The line came out different than she'd planned, smaller, more vulnerable. You looked at what I could become, what you wanted me to be, what would make you proud, but you never just saw me, the person I actually am, the daughter who needed you to love her not for her potential but for her existence. Madison's voice cracked, genuine tears springing to her eyes because this wasn't about the character anymore, this was about her, about Madison Hartley who'd spent 24 years trying to earn love that should have been freely given. She continued through the speech, completely abandoning her rehearsed performance, letting the words connect to her own pain, her own anger, and somewhere in the middle of it she forgot Vincent was there, forgot everything except the truth of what she was saying. When the last line finally left her lips, Madison was sobbing, not pretty theatrical tears but ugly, gasping sobs, completely undone in a way she'd never allowed herself to be undone before. Vincent sat quietly, waiting for her crying to subside, and when she could finally breathe normally again, he spoke with absolute certainty. That's what you need to do tomorrow. Exactly that. Madison laughed, a sound somewhere between amusement and despair. I can't do that in an audition, I was a complete mess, I lost all control. Vincent shook his head firmly. You looked human. You looked real. You looked like someone experiencing actual emotions rather than performing the idea of emotions. That's what casting directors are desperate to find. But I wasn't even thinking about the character, Madison protested. I was thinking about my father, about my own life. That's not acting, that's just therapy or something. Vincent smiled that knowing smile. That's exactly acting, the kind that matters. You found the bridge between your experience and the character's experience. You let your truth animate her words. The character's mother is emotionally neglectful, your father is emotionally distant, the specifics differ but the wound is the same, and you accessed your real wound to make her fictional wound vivid and authentic. Share your thoughts with me in the comments. Tell me about the mentors who changed your life, the moments when someone taught you to see yourself differently. If this story is resonating with you, please subscribe and turn on notifications because we're creating something meaningful here, a space where authenticity matters more than perfection. Your presence in this community means everything. The audition was scheduled for 2 o'clock the following afternoon, and Madison woke at dawn with her heart already racing. She went through her normal pre-audition routine mechanically, shower and makeup and hair and wardrobe, the careful calibration of someone who'd spent years thinking about how she appeared to others. But as she stood in front of the mirror, Madison barely recognized the polished stranger looking back at her. She thought about Vincent's words, about authenticity and truth and the courage to be seen, and slowly, deliberately, Madison began to dismantle her carefully constructed appearance. She wiped off half her makeup, leaving just enough to look human rather than theatrical. She pulled her hair back into a simple ponytail. She changed into jeans and a simple sweater, clothes that felt comfortable rather than strategic. And as she made these small rebellions, Madison felt something shifting inside her, some tightly held control beginning to loosen. The audition was in a rehearsal space in Chelsea. Madison arrived 15 minutes early, but instead of using that time to run lines and psyche herself up, she sat in the waiting area and just breathed, tried to stay present in her body. 3 other women were waiting too, all clearly talented and prepared, and normally Madison would have sized them up, would have compared herself to them. But today she just smiled at them, acknowledged their shared nervousness, their shared hope. Madison Hartley? The casting assistant called her name, and Madison stood, felt her legs trembling slightly, walked through the door into the audition room with her heart pounding. There were 3 of them behind the table, 2 women and a man, all holding copies of her headshot and resume. "Hi Madison, I'm Carolyn, I'm directing this piece," the older woman in the center said. "Whenever you're ready, you can start with the confrontation scene from Act 2. This was it. Madison could feel the old instincts rising, the urge to deliver her carefully rehearsed performance, to control every moment. But then she remembered Vincent's hands on the piano keys, remembered the terrible beautiful noise, and Madison made a choice. She looked at the 3 casting directors and said something she'd never said in an audition before. "Can I do something different than what I prepared?" Carolyn's eyebrows rose slightly. "Sure, if you want to make an adjustment, go ahead." Madison shook her head. "No, I mean, can I not do it the way I rehearsed at all? Can I just try to be honest with you instead of trying to be good?" The 3 of them exchanged glances and then Carolyn smiled, a genuine smile. "That might be the best direction I've heard from an actor in years. Yes, please be honest with us." Madison nodded, took a breath, and let everything she'd planned dissolve. She didn't sit in the chair they provided, didn't hit any of her rehearsed marks. Instead, she stood in the middle of that room and spoke the characters' words as if they were her own truth, let her voice crack and waver, let tears come when they wanted to come, let anger rise without controlling it. The speech poured out of her, raw and painful and completely unvarnished, and Madison wasn't thinking about the casting directors, wasn't thinking about whether she was making good choices, wasn't thinking about anything except the character's pain and her own pain and how they wove together. She forgot she was auditioning, forgot she was performing, forgot everything except the truth of what she was saying. When the last word left her mouth, Madison stood there breathing hard, tears streaming down her face, completely exposed and more terrified than she'd ever been. The silence in the room felt infinite, stretched so long that Madison's fears started to crystallize into certainty that she'd made a terrible mistake. But then Carolyn stood up from behind the table, and Madison saw that she was crying too, and the director walked across the room and pulled Madison into a hug. "That was extraordinary," Carolyn whispered. "That was the most honest audition I've seen in 20 years of casting. That was what I've been trying to find since we started this process. Someone who understands that this play isn't about technique but about raw human truth." She pulled back, held Madison by the shoulders. "The role is yours if you want it. I don't need to see anyone else, don't need time to think about it. You're Elizabeth, you understand her in your bones, and I want to work with someone who's brave enough to bring this kind of authenticity to the work." Madison couldn't speak, couldn't process what was happening. "Really?" she finally managed. You actually want me for the role? Carolyn laughed. I'm not being nice, I'm being selfish. I want you in this production because you're going to make everyone around you better, going to raise the bar for what's possible. So yes, really, the role is absolutely yours. Madison left the audition room in a daze and called Vincent. It's me, Madison said, and started crying before she could say anything else. It's Madison, and I got the part, I did what you said and I got the part, and I don't know how to process this. She could hear his smile through the phone. You stopped lying, just Madison. You stopped performing and started being, and people responded to that truth. I'm proud of you, not for getting the role but for having the courage to risk not getting it. The production ran for 3 months, sold out every night, extended twice. Reviews called her performance devastating and brutally honest, unlike anything currently on the New York stage. Agents reached out, casting directors called about other projects. But the real transformation wasn't in her career success, it was in how she moved through the world now, no longer hiding behind her father's name or performing her way through life, but simply existing as herself, flawed and honest and free. Opening night, her father came, and afterward, he approached her backstage with something in his face she'd never seen before, something that looked like wonder. Madison, he said, his voice rough with emotion, I've seen you in productions before and they were always fine, always technically proficient, but tonight this was something else entirely. This was you, actually you, and I realized sitting there watching that I'd never really seen you before, never understood what you were trying to do. I'm sorry it took me this long. I'm sorry I didn't see you sooner. Vincent was there too, and Madison introduced them. Thank you for seeing something in my daughter that I was too blind to see, Gerald said with genuine humility. Thank you for teaching her what I couldn't. Vincent smiled. I didn't teach her anything, Mr. Hartley. I just helped her remember what she already knew, helped her find the courage to offer her truth to the world instead of hiding behind polish and technique. Your daughter always had this inside her, she just needed permission to let it out. Years later, Madison would establish a scholarship fund at Vincent's studio, ensuring that other struggling artists could access his wisdom. She'd go on to win awards, star in films, become the kind of actress people mentioned in conversations about transformative performances. But she never forgot that afternoon when she walked into a shabby music studio and a blind pianist taught her the secret that changed everything. That authenticity is more powerful than perfection, that truth resonates deeper than technique, and that sometimes the people who see us most clearly are the ones who can't see us at all. Vincent continued teaching in his studio until the day he died at 83, still playing that old piano, still teaching people how to make terrible beautiful noise, still reminding everyone who walked through his door that the secret to any art, any life, any meaningful existence was simply this: have the courage to be real. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever had a teacher who saw you when no one else could, or if you've struggled to choose authenticity over expectation, I'd be honored if you'd share your experience in the comments below. Your story matters, and this community is built on the belief that our truths, however messy or imperfect, deserve to be witnessed and celebrated. Please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, not because I need the numbers, but because I believe we're creating something meaningful here, a space where honesty is valued over polish, where vulnerability is recognized as strength, where we remind each other that being real is always enough. Thank you for being here, for listening to Madison's story, for being part of this journey toward authenticity. Until next time, have the courage to make your own terrible beautiful noise, and never forget that your truth is the most valuable thing you have to offer the world.